Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to the part where we discuss the message. It was wonderful. Miriam, I'm glad to see you at the beach. And Mauricio is also in nice warm weather. Our weather in Montreal now is not the best, but it also is not the worst. So those who live with palm trees and warm weather are blessed indeed. Anyway, Mauricio, thank you so much. Your message really helped me because almost the last 3 weeks have been so horrible for me in many ways because I've been so ill. I think if I examine what went on, two things have hit me all at once, and the exhaustion and the misery is more than I can bear. I'm a big chicken. I hate to be sick. And when I am, I start doubting my whole life. I just start doubting that I believe in God. How can He allow this to happen to me? I'm so faithful and I'm this and I do this. And here I am, I'm sick. Why? And I start analyzing every second of my life, every inch of what I say and what I do. And that makes me even sicker. And sometimes, as you say, these things just happen and they humble us. They teach us. We learn so much from them. So really, it was a beautiful message. Thank you so much. Miriam, you have something to add? I don't want to take you away from the water, but
well, yeah, lots of things. First was thank you, Mauricio. It's about living consciously and realizing that life is fleeting and the important things in life, but also that life is a gift. Sometimes we can go the other way and not, people use the expression the pie in the sky, like, this life is just fleeting, but fleeting doesn't mean it doesn't have substance. It's real and it has substance. It's like it's not a mirage or like some of the Eastern religions talk about the everything is illusion and Maya, and no, this life is real, and God cared about the little things, about everything, and the importance of what makes a life full is not the way people think, only about having lots of things, etc., etc. It's relationships and love and everything in our life. And I really like that. What else? Life is, and what makes a life full is also, as you were saying, about being kind and like all of that is important. But even like appreciating, when we go to Nikas or go somewhere and we have a good meal with friends and it's a full, substantial life, and it's a gift. God didn't create us just for suffering. But, even Peggy, in reference to what, and Mauricio, to the idea that following God and being obedient doesn't mean that we're not going to have suffering. But I think sometimes suffering, we suffer from sometimes from other people's, disobedience. We affect each other, so it doesn't necessarily mean that you did something wrong. Remember, I always talk to you, Peggy, about when Yeshua said, when people were saying, I forget, there was something that happened, something fell on
a
bridge or something.
He healed the blind. He healed someone who was born blind, and they said to him, what did this
person do?
And he said, no, it was just to show the glory of God, or just to show God's power.
Well, not only that, there was something else, a tragedy that happened. Something fell, or like a bridge, and fell on people, and they said, what did they do to deserve this?
Right.
And he said, stop talking like this, lest something worse happen. Like, it's not always A goes to B goes, like, this happened bad in my life because I did that. Sometimes, like, what did a little baby do to die at let's say, a year old? The baby didn't do anything, but there are consequences of the disobedience of the whole world, and we're going to feel that too.
Yeah.
So we can't always trace it back to something we did. In my, it doesn't. There are consequences in this life of everyone's behavior, and it affects everyone. If there's an earthquake, all sorts of people are going to die.
And I
And
think we have to find the balance. Like last night, I was relaxing and watching HGTV, and
I
I
love
saw,
that channel.
yeah, and I saw them, a couple who had decided to leave everything in the United States. They sold their home, they sold everything, all their possessions, and they decided to move to an island. Like I don't remember if it was St. Lucia or St.
Martin,
Martin's,
I
one
think
of
so.
these islands, and they wanted to buy a property, a home with a lot of bedrooms, 5 bedrooms for them and for guests to make a guest house. And as soon as I saw the water, the ocean, and the palm trees, I'm looking at it and I said, "Ah, that's a life." I think I'd be there 2 weeks and I'd go nuts. You
But don't
know,
forget, Peggy, they were working. They were going to
yeah.
make their livelihood there.
And
It
that certainly
wasn't.
wouldn't be my livelihood because to
No,
be
no, no, but you
entertained in
were.
my home like that, the Alvarados could do it, but not me. Yeah, you have to be a special quality to always want people around you. I think it's really finding balance in life that's so important. So Mauricio, thank you. Do you have something you want to add?
Yes, is there is a lot of uh, more hidden treasures in this portion because also well, there is a fact that today Palestinians are saying the land is ours, okay,
Yeah,
but the land was bought by Abraham.
exactly. And they well know that because it's in all Islam and Christianity both stem from the Torah. So it's in there. They know. And everybody heard. Everybody there heard, and that was passed down from generation. They had no excuse not to believe that.
Yeah, and the point is that when Israel get out from Egypt, they return back to their land,
Yes,
okay, because Abraham bought the land.
right.
So it's like my father
Yeah,
bought a house and now is occupied by anybody else, but it's my heritage. So
right,
I return back and say, hey, get out, please. This
right.
is mine. Okay, so that's something that really like me, and the fact that we real that there are some other things. For example, the shekels they were given were a merchant shekels.
Hmm.
Okay, a normal person will make this money in 55 to 60 years of working. Okay, but is a little shekel. Now this shekel, the is for merchants, is bigger, so the worth is not 400, it's 4,000.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, and then we can read at the Torah that, for example, there are many people who made transactions in the future and the transactions were lower than these made by Abraham. So what is trying to say the Torah, he paid a lot of money.
I know.
Okay.
I thought of that when you mentioned that. Several years ago, Miriam went to buy a burial plot for herself. And you paid a good price. Now, and I didn't do it, and I'm older than her. I didn't do it. I still haven't done it. And I have friends who were 10 years older than me who still haven't done it. And it's almost like I say, there's going to be a nuclear bomb. Why would I spend the money? We're going to be gone. There's something inside that just doesn't allow me to do it. And then I say, but what if I move to Israel? What if I'm not here in Montreal? I just have not. So I decided to do something a little different. Maybe than buying the plot, I can buy an insurance policy that will pay up to, let's say, $50,000 they offer now for my children to bury me. But we do have to look forward. We do have to plan for things because we don't know. in that you were right.
Yes, this is something that we must not create problems to our next generation.
Right.
For example, what will happen if Abraham wouldn't buy a place to be buried? Probably Ishmael and Isaac were fighting about where to
Yes.
bury
Yes.
Abraham.
Yes.
Can you imagine that? Okay. So, but what Abraham did, he mm, his work allowed that Isaac and Ishmael have a healthy relation. Probably
Right.
not, they were not close, okay, but
Right.
they have a healthy relation, not as today,
Right.
okay? But so this is very important. After the portion talks about the servant of Abraham, because he was commanded to look for a wife for for Isaac. Um, and this task is very hard because I cannot imagine how stressed was this man looking for a wife. Okay, can you imagine if he was thinking about, oh, is she beauty? Is she good? Is she have good manners, good family, things like that? And there are a couple of changes between what Abraham said to him and what this man did. Okay, first he just command, okay, go to the land of my parents and look for a wife there. So obviously he was not lack of faith. He was very smart man. Okay, and he said, "What if happen if I don't find a girl for your son?" So he said, "Okay, your work is to look." Okay,
But didn't he also say, I
from
will send an angel will go before you?
yeah, but this is an story from this servant, not from Abraham. Okay,
Oh,
Abraham
Abraham didn't
just
say that?
no. I can tell you.
I thought Abraham said that. That
No. What he said is on chapter 24. Okay, he said, I'm gonna look at the Spanish. Okay, he made to take a swear. Okay,
yes.
and he said, do not take a woman from the Canaanites where I
Right.
dwell.
Right.
That this is not about racism. Okay, this is
No.
about customs.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
so it's not the same about to think that persons who were very idolaters and persons who has sexual bad habits and they didn't know really about God and do not have fear from God. It's more than obvious that there is, for example, a saying in our country that says it's better to be alone than to have a bad companion. Okay,
That's true. Yes. Yeah.
so
By the way,
probably that's
it does say here in Genesis 24, verse 7, the God of heaven, this is Abraham speaking, who took me from my father's house and from my native land, who promised me an oath, I will assign this land, will send a messenger before you, and you will get, and the messenger is Malach, to get, so he knew that a messenger would go before
yeah
him.
yeah probably is but yeah, but the idea for me is not really a malach like angel. Okay, for me the idea is God will put the situations or 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 put the things, so he prepared the moment, and you will notice what is going on. Okay, not necessarily that is an angel before me. Okay, for example, if we go to the facts, okay, who was really the angel for this man? The angel was Rivka. That's because at the moment he looked at her, something happened to him, and it's like, oh, there is she. Okay, so so it's not really about, and I didn't read that honestly, but for me is that that is not really like we can imagine. Okay, God will, for example, I want to go to make a business. Okay, so if we start to believe, oh God, please send me an angel for this negotiation. Okay, how that will be that angel? Probably the angel is your client. Okay, and then when you look at him, you understand that, and then you start to negotiate with him.
Yeah.
Okay,
It could also be
so
your instinct to know whether you can trust him
yeah,
or not. Yeah.
yeah,
Like my
that's
mother always used to say, I have a parking angel.
exactly.
Or it can be a
Just give me
dog.
1 minute.
Or it could be a
Remember
dog.
the case
Yeah.
of this, remember, I told you, Peggy, about this movie mogul, this man who, I don't know if he owned lots of like a MGM or a movie studio. And there's lots of terrible things that happen in the dealings. People lose millions of dollars. And he had once had to bring his dog to one of these meetings, and they couldn't conclude the deal because the dog, which was a calm dog generally, started to go crazy and bark and didn't like the man who he was making the dealings with, and they couldn't complete the deal. He said, we'll meet again soon. And anyway, it ended up that he didn't make the deal, but the man was a crook, a terrible, terrible man. So this
So the dog
man
was the
started
angel.
to bring his dog to all these meetings, and the dog was the one who kind of could sense whether there's evil in the other person or not.
Amazing.
Yeah, following that idea, it says that he will send your angel before you, and you will take the woman for my son there. Okay,
Right.
and again Abraham said, and if the woman will lie to follow you,
Does not
then
like to.
you that's not your problem. Okay,
Yeah, you'll be clear.
so
Yeah.
so the point here is, with the angel is the woman. Okay, so
Interesting.
because, and then also there is something else that is amazing, which is the very first time in the world history that appears woman's right. Okay,
Yes.
I didn't hear
why?
that. The same
It was the
first.
first time in the history of the world that you see women's rights,
Oh, right.
because they asked Rivka if she wanted
Right,
to go with
exactly.
him.
Right.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
you're referring to.
and
Yeah.
but first Abraham, he didn't know Rivka. It's just that he said, okay, if the woman would like to come with you, so it's not forced to her to
Right.
come. Okay,
Or stay.
so yeah, or to stay.
Right.
That is very interesting, because at that time, how was the reality? And how is the reality right now in the Middle East for many
Right.
women?
Right. They
Okay,
have no rights.
they don't have rights.
Yeah.
It's very sad to look how many little girls are married against their will with old men
Yeah. At 9 years old.
at 9 years old. So the Torah is very explicit. Okay, do not obligate, do not force marriage. Okay, it's very wise. I start to think what will happen if, for example, Queen Elizabeth will hear this kind of words. Okay, probably Diana will marry with Charles. Okay, because that is a transaction. Okay, so even today there are many persons who are married because convenience.
Right.
Oh, he is a very good family. We have some money, so we put them together. But it's not the way of the Torah teach us.
Right.
Okay, that should be. Also, there are so many mothers and fathers who start to advise their children about to whom marry. So
Right.
it's the very first thing you need to understand that is okay. First is this is very important, uh, and it's not about uh, convenience. It's about willing. Okay.
Or it's also not about going out on many dates and falling in love and all these
Yeah,
things. Yeah, this modern era.
it's not necessarily okay
Exactly.
because it says at the end of this portion also when he looked at Rivka, okay, then he took her to his mom's um,
Tent.
tent, and then he loved
Yes.
Rivka.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't need to be in love, like
Exactly. And
desperately, like I am sick if I don't love her. So
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
so that is something
And
from Hollywood.
I love the idea of signs that God gave this man. Well, I don't know how it happened, but he certainly listened to him. If the woman, when I ask her to give me a drink, if she says, I will feed your camels too, that will be the one. And that's exactly what happened. That's a sign. It reminded me of what was his name? Gideon, who asked God for a sign. Remember with the fleece. But I think
Yeah,
Jews look for signs.
yeah, and but this is some criticism about if we have to follow uh and
Sign.
put a test, okay, to God, for example, sometimes
Mm,
it's not really good. Okay, there is a very border invisible between these kind of petitions uh, because there are sometimes that is very evident that we don't have to look for a sign to God in order to obey His voice because I can tell you many persons. For example, I remember when I was youth, uh, in when I was a teenager, I remember how many of my friends in the church, okay, they asked signs to God, for example, to know if to date a girl. Okay,
yeah.
that is, I'm telling
That
you
goes
something that
overboard.
is
I used
real.
yeah, I used to ask for signs for everything and it took me in the wrong
Yeah,
direction, let me tell
Well,
you.
sometimes
You're right.
what people call a sign is almost the occult in the extreme. So there's a
yeah,
Yeah.
balance between magic and dark
Yes.
things like
yeah.
mediums will tell you things like a sign or that
Yeah.
type of thing. But I think when you mean it, when your life is dedicated to God and you're in that context, it's much different than when everybody who they don't keep the commandments or whatever. It's just part of our culture. Oh, I want a sign that I'm doing the right thing, or that there's a man out there for me, show me a sign. So it's different than when as a believer. Anyway, there's a difference and there's a fine line.
Yeah.
Well, for example, I can tell you, I met persons who asked to God assigned to go and look for a job. Okay.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, but
Yeah.
it's like, uh, why you are asking to God, do I have to work or not? Do I have to live from other persons or not?
Yeah.
So I mean, this is reality,
Yes.
okay, of many persons.
Yeah.
How many person I have seen that they said, "Oh, I cut myself. I have a disease, for example, that is evident that I have a disease. Do I have to go to the doctor?" Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so there are many. So, but this is, sometimes it's lack of is lack of confidence on what is right and what is wrong. Okay.
Right.
In this case, this man, for example, asked to God for a sign. Okay. But he a little bit twisted. Okay. The For example, okay, I'm gonna tell you, and I was sharing this with in the Tuesday class. Okay. I was telling them that sometimes, for example, my boss is telling me, okay, go look for a good price for this item that we need to buy. Okay. And so I have a goal. Okay. And I look in myself as this servant. Okay. And then, and if I had a task, then I start to think about how to get my goal, okay, on time. And then I start to change a little bit the reality and the story, just in order to get what somebody commanded me. Okay. This is not, sometimes it's not really lying. Okay. Because you are uh, is that you are telling the same story, but with some flowers that makes something better, and it's like a person, for example, who wants to sell you something. For example, the person who wants to sell you something, that this person will not come to you and say, "Oh, what a bad day," and you look terrible. He wants to sell you. Okay.
Right. Right.
Probably you dress the worst combinations you can have in in your room, and but he will tell you, "Oh, you look great."
Mm.
Okay. So, but he's trying to sell you something. Okay.
Right.
That is his goal. He's looking at business. Okay.
That was
He's
Ephraim.
looking at transaction. Okay.
Exactly.
He's looking for a transaction.
Right.
So in this case, the servant have the same idea. He's looking for a transaction.
Right.
Okay. He's not looking really like, yeah, probably he had some feelings for Isaac, but he was commanded by his boss, and made a swear that he will make his best. Okay. So is if Abraham is paying me for doing that, I have to be very wise to get what I need. So if you start to read this portion without spirituality and look for the facts as a transaction, then you will discover that this man was a businessman. Okay. He know how to negotiate.
Right.
And probably the sign he asked to God, he forced that happen. Okay. Because uh, he 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 asked. Okay, first he obviously asked to God and prayed to God, Lord, help me. Okay, he know that God will be with him because he knew that God was with Abraham. Okay. But then he said that first he put a condition, is a young woman. Okay. It doesn't say that it's a woman, that is evident that is married, or I don't know. He started to have very direct with his petition, okay, to say, okay, young woman. So it's interesting. Then he says, I will tell her, okay, I will not wait for her. So
Mhm.
when I come to her, in probably Abraham gave 10 camels, okay, and then we read that there are more servants with this servant, okay. I don't think he was dressing, the worst clothes. He was probably with the best clothing, okay, like a CEO today, okay.
Mhm. Right.
So, you know, there are big companies around the world, but the CEO is not looking like, a journalist. Is not looking like a person of low salary. No, he's representing his master. Okay, so because in the movies they show this person probably very dirty, and sometimes with clothing, you know dirty, and old, and things like that. No, he was a CEO of for Abraham. So he said, and I gonna tell her, okay, uh, hey, please, I begged you, okay. Uh, I want to drink, okay. I don't know what kind of voice he used, okay,
What kind of
or
what?
how was that voice,
Oh, his
voice,
voice.
okay,
His
his
tone.
voice. Yeah, I can say, would you please give me a water, or
Right.
can give me water, please.
Right. Right.
That is very completely different, okay. And probably you don't expect that kind of person, and you look a person who is important. Then when you are, I mean, Rivka was not a woman like 25 years old. She was a teenager, okay. So if you are a teenager looking that an important man is asking you something, then you obey. So it's like, it's not like today's boys, but probably you will say to them, hey, come here, and they ignore you, because the manners today are completely different of the manners of that time, okay.
Right.
So it's interesting that he is asking to her, and probably she was like, oh, this man is very important. Mm. I
Do
will
you,
offer to the camels some water. And
right.
yes, what that was something interesting, because every camel is drinking more about a barrel, okay, of
Yeah. A lot of
55
water.
gallons,
Yeah. I wanted to
a
ask you
lot of
something
water.
about that because it says at the end when she decided to leave, she left with her maids. So it's obvious that a woman who had maids or even a young girl who had maids, they were well off. So do you think that she watered the camels herself, or do you think she and her maids watered all the camels?
Shear her mates. That's
Probably.
obviously,
Yeah,
yeah.
because it would take
And
a lot.
probably, and also why he addressed to Rivka and not to another girls, because he said he was like looking the wells, and he was looking the girls, okay. Why he didn't go to another girl. It's more than obvious that he was looking a girl that had money, okay, that he will say, oh, this is a very good party for Itzhak. The point is that the well was the place where all the young persons went to find out a person to marry. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like Facebook today or Instagram today.
Right.
So that is something. So he was not blind.
Right.
He was looking what is happening. He looked at her and he looked, oh, the maids are there. She's been cared by some other persons.
Right.
She's not alone. Things like that. So it's not really, oh, just the sign of God. No.
Right.
Okay. So Rivka at the moment she asked to him, okay, oh, because she was good manner. Okay. That's important to raise up properly the kids. Okay.
Right.
So she asked to him, okay, would you like that I bring your camels? And obviously he said, oh, she's the one. Okay. But it's not really that it was something like, oh, it was like there is something extraordinary. No, he looked at reality. He
Right.
opened the eyes.
Right.
He did it. He shows with the target of a businessman. She's the one. Okay.
Right.
So and
Interesting.
then he add
Hmm.
some words to the story of Abraham, because he had go to my family house. Okay. And Abraham did not say that. He just said, go to the city. Okay. Not to my family, not look for my family. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah.
When he wondered that they were relatives, he added this just to sell the idea, hey, let her go. Okay. But also there is something more interesting. In this is something that in the families we need to look for. Okay. Because Rivka, who is talking when he's negotiating the servant with the family of Rivka, Lavan. Lavan is the one who start to talk. And probably we can say, oh, probably his father was dead. But then suddenly in that story appears the name of Betuel. But
Right.
Betuel didn't say nothing.
No.
Betuel was like a point to the left. Okay.
Right.
So they were ignoring his father.
Mm.
And this is that in the future, Rivka will repeat with Itzhak. Okay. For example, with the twins. Okay. We read that she go to consult to God. She went to a one prophet to ask, hey, what is going on in my womb? They are fighting. But the Torah doesn't say that Isaac knew that.
No.
So
She never told
she's
him the
repeating,
prophecy.
yeah. So she's repeating what she lives
What she learned at home.
in her house.
Yeah.
Yeah, what she learned at home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is something that is very important, because my kids are growing, and one day they at the dinner they ask me, oh, how do I know a girl is good for me? and start to talk about it and said, okay, first look how she talks to her dad and to her mom. Okay, so that is very important. If you look that she is very good with her parents and honoring them, and is then she she will respect you. But if she shout to him, ignore them, what do you think that happened with you? Okay, so that is very important to look how is the other person. In obviously you will never get a perfect person. That's more than obvious. But
Because we're not
Rivka
perfect.
was, yeah, but Rivka was the best for Isaac at that time.
Right.
Okay,
She
you
was
know,
strong. She was a leader like
yeah,
Sarah.
yeah, and how was Isaac? Isaac was very passive.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Like
that's it,
like Betuel.
more or less like Betrayal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he needed a Rivka, to sometimes we need Rivkas as women because sometimes we don't want to, oh, I don't want to have problems and just let it go and and things like that. No, sometimes you need someone that tells you, hey, wake up, fight. Okay. So
Yeah.
uh so that is something interesting about that. And then this man knew how to sell, obviously, Abraham's son, because he started what he said. Okay, I'm gonna put you this. I remember once we were with Evelyn in a tourist place, Europe, and then the person who were at the street was an African, and this man just took some things and put to Evelyn inside. And then I was, like, oh, do I have to pay for this? Okay. How can I deny to him if he is very kind and you know, it's not the case, but more or less because he just put, he never asked, oh, would you like to accept this? No,
Yeah.
it's just
No.
said that he puts some rings and jewelry and
Yeah.
and obviously that was for selling Abraham's son. Okay, so that he was very clever. I mean, he was a businessman. He learned from Abraham.
Right.
So is that is something that I really love about this portion, because it's talking about how, for example, oh, I want to succeed. I have a business that I need to close. What can I do? Okay, go and read this portion. Okay, what Abraham's servant did.
Right.
Okay, and then put it in practice. That is best than Harvard. I mean, because it's like, oh, I have a problem with my enemies and I need to face these enemies. Okay, go and look how Jacob faced Esau.
Right.
Okay, after 40
Right.
years or 20
Right.
years, I can remember. So the Torah is telling and teaching us how to live the life in
Yeah.
very practical way.
Yeah. It's telling me I wish my father had bought a burial plot so I wouldn't have had to worry about it. Oh my goodness.
Just one thing that's interesting, when we're talking about, the land of Israel, you can see historically that it belongs to Israel. It's not Palestinian land, but sometimes people will take that sort of thing and they'll talk about, for example, Canada. Canada, you could say belongs to the native people because we just came. Well, the Europeans and different races, peoples just came and took over the land. And this has happened all over Europe, all in South America, everywhere. But the difference is, God's intervention in the land of Israel. And people who don't believe in God, sometimes it's very hard to really talk to them about this because they don't have that's not their belief system, so sometimes you can't use God, you can't bring up and say, well, God gave him this land. They say, well, who's God? So sometimes it's very hard to talk to people about it, and there's got to be other ways where you look, and yes, historically, the land belongs to Israel. Like, you can't even bring God into it. You have to look at even the fact that, at the beginning of the birth of Israel, very rich people, was it the Rothschilds? Very wealthy people bought out many sections of the land. So there's modern day arguments, you could say, because otherwise people say, well, what about, are we going to all leave Canada because the native peoples, really, it was their land originally. So
No, actually, originally it wasn't. They migrated here.
from,
We
so
didn't
who would,
migrate. We migrated, but at God's command. But you're right. If they don't believe in God, there's
well,
nowhere
then,
to
so
go.
then the arguments, I think, become secular, because there are
Right.
secular
We did buy the
know,
land.
arguments
Yeah.
about the land.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well,
Just it came to my mind. This anti-Semitism is growing in the world. Okay.
very bad.
Once, and it's interesting that people is losing their culture for this kind of thinking of, it's not really integrating, but it's just to accept everyone culture. But in this week, I read that in UK they said all the public persons never said happy or Merry Christmas, for example, to all person, because the Muslims will be affected. In in also in Spain they want to do that. Okay. And now I start to think about this, how these movements of thinking is like, oh, and so then as to this person in for example, is like Israel right now is judging by the Haya, and they are, trying to capture prime minister in the in Garland to the to this court, okay, to be judged supposedly for genocide. And then they also make to say to the world, oh, we are very just judges. We want to that a terrorist who is already there to judge him. And that's ridiculous. So the world is changing. Okay. And this is something sad. Okay. We need to look back to our principles more than before. Okay. And to teach our kids what is right, what is wrong. Okay. If not, because this kind of current of thinking is trying to distract you from the reality and what is like, what is good, what is correct. Okay. And it's very sad because, as Rav Shaul said, they call good what is bad,
Right.
and they call bad what is good.
Exactly.
Okay. So we need to be light to the world.
Yes. And may we be light in this world. We need that so badly. That's why I believe so much in this little community and those like us who are out there who are teaching, the same thing, that we need to go back to the Torah, go back to God's principles. Thank you, Mauricio, again so much for that really wonderful message. I want to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom. Take the rest of your day and just enjoy. And we'll see you again, God willing, next week when we'll listen to our Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom.
everybody.
Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
everybody. Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom.